The prairie sky that morning burned like hammered copper, streaked with dust and fire, as if heaven itself was smoldering above the town. The air smelled of horse sweat, dry earth, and the faint tang of smoke from cook fires drifting through the alleys. It was a place where stories grew wild and dangerous, carried in whispers sharper than spears, and where a soul's worth could be bartered away in the space of a glance. Into that crucible came Clarabelle Hart, her boots nearly split at the seams, her face pale beneath the sun's merciless hand, and her eyes filled with the kind of stubborn hunger that makes folk look twice and then look away, ashamed for staring. She had no wagon, no trunk, no companion, only a worn satchel pressed against her ribs as if it held more than just a few threadbare clothes. She had once known warmth, the kind of home where a fire crackled and laughter lived in the rafters, but that had been taken from her years ago. People said she was too proud to beg, too cursed to marry, too restless to settle. People said many things. What they did not see was the way her hands trembled when she pressed them into her skirts to still herself, or the way her jaw clenched each time a door shut in her face. She asked first at the mercantile. The owner, Mrs. Rowley, glanced at her once, lips pinched tight as if Clara's very presence soured the air. "We don't need no help," she said, though Clara could see flour sacks stacked high in shelves that begged for dusting. At the saloon, laughter broke like a wave when she asked about washing dishes, one of the poker men drawling, "Darling, we already got girls enough for that, and for everything else." She did not blush, nor did she spit back, though the words burned. Instead, she walked on, her dignity like a threadbare coat she refused to shed, even as it failed to warm her. By noon she found herself at the edge of town where the land stretched wide and brown, the horizon trembling with heat. There stood the ranch of Colt Maddox, a man spoken of in half-tones, for though he kept to himself, his name carried a certain gravity. They said he had once ridden with a posse that hunted down rustlers in the high country. They said he'd buried a brother young, and that afterward he turned harder than cured leather. They also said he paid fair, treated his horses better than most men treated their kin, and never raised his voice even when he had cause. Clara lingered by the gate, the smell of hay drifting from the barn, the steady sound of hammering echoing from within. Her throat ached with thirst, but worse was the ache of uncertainty. To turn back meant more rejection, more hollow stays. To step forward meant staking what little pride she had left on the chance of mercy from a stranger. She stepped through. The barn door creaked, spilling light over Colt Maddox's broad frame as he drove a nail into a stall beam. He looked up, the kind of man who carried silence like a weapon, his eyes the color of storm-battered slate. For a moment neither spoke, the air between them thick with the quiet of appraisal. Clara straightened her shoulders. "I came to ask for work," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "Any work at all." Colt studied her, the way a man measures weather on the horizon, knowing it can mean life or death if read wrong. His hammer stilled, but he did not put it down. At last he spoke, his voice low and unhurried, each word falling with the weight of an iron shoe. "I'll give you a place, hey? Food, shelter, work that'll weigh your hands roll. But only if you'll marry me by sunset." The word struck like a thrown stone. Clara blinked, stunned, searching his face for mockery. None showed. He leaned against the beam, calm as a man discussing rainfall. The barn seemed to tilt around her, the smell of hay sharp in her nostrils, her pulse hammering. "That's your offer?" she asked, her tone thin with disbelief. "Marriage by sunset, or nothing at all?" He gave a single nod. "That's it." Her heart twisted, half insult, half bewilderment. What sort of man made such a proposal to a stranger? Yet behind his bluntness she glimpsed something, weariness, perhaps, or a longing tucked so deep it scarcely dared breathe. The thought unsettled her more than the offer itself. She left without answering, the sound of her boots hollow on the dirt. By mid-afternoon the town already knew. Gossip traveled faster than dust on the wind, and Clara's name became the hinge of every tongue. Desperate, they muttered, women huddled at the well. Shameless, sneered the men leaning on railings. Some laughed that she'd fall to her knees by dusk. Others said she'd run, tail between her legs. Clara endued their eyes as she fetched a tin cup of water, each glance another lash across her skin. Pride told her to flee the town altogether. But where? Hunger tethered her. So did something else. The memory of Colt Maddox's unflinching gaze. Not cruel, not mocking, but steady, as though he were offering her a cliff edge and trusting she might learn to fly. She returned to his ranch as the sun slanted gold across the plains. Without a word, she picked up a bucket, carried water to the trough, and began helping with chores. He did not stop her. He watched quietly as she gathered eggs, her hands blistering on the wooden handles of the baskets. He held the ladder when she patched a loose shingle, his calloused palm bracing it with silent assurance. When her fingers slipped on a rope, he steadied her wrist, his touch brief, unintrusive, but grounding. No explanations passed between them, no declarations. Yet in those small gestures a fragile connection began to spark, something more binding than the bargain he had laid before her. Still, the town's whispers clawed at her. As sunset neared, a pair of women blocked her path, their voices sharp as needles. "Think yourself respectable. Marrying like that. You're no better than." Clara did not let them finish. She bit her lip, trembling, the words burrowing deep. Doubt surged. Perhaps she was fooling herself, clinging to the notion of dignity when all she did was barter survival. She nearly turned back toward the road, ready to vanish into the wilderness. Then a shadow fell. Colt stood behind her, his stance calm but unyielding. "That's enough," he said, his voice carrying not thunder but steel. The women shrank beneath his gaze and slipped away. Clara looked at him, startled by the quiet shield he had thrown around her. He had not defended her honor with grand gestures or raised fists, only with a simple boundary, a line in the dust. For the first time she realized he was not trying to own her. He was giving her a choice, a place, a chance to be seen for more than whispers. The sky deepened crimson as the town gathered near the chapel ridge, curiosity thick as smoke. Clara walked there beside Colt, her pulse wild, her palms damp, the weight of every eye pressing down. Yet with each step she felt something strange unfurl inside. Courage, fragile but fierce. The preacher spoke plain words, nothing fancy, just the binding of two names before God and man. Colt's hand closed around Hayes, warm and steady, the gold light of the setting sun igniting dust motes between them like sparks of fire. There were no promises of passion, no flowery vows. Only the silent accord of two weary souls choosing not to walk alone anymore. Clara lifted her chin, her voice clear as she said, "I do." And in that instant, it was not surrender but defiance, not desperation but rebirth. The town quieted, taken aback. They had expected spectacle or shame, not this quiet dignity that transformed her in front of their eyes. Clara felt it too, a shift within herself, as though she had stepped into the skin of a woman she had long yearned to be. She was not saved by Colt Maddox, nor purchased by his proposal. She had saved herself by choosing to stand, to speak, to claim her worth before the sun slid away. And in his steady gaze she saw not a master, but a partner, someone who carried his own loneliness like a scar and had chosen, against all odds, to share it with her. Now, if you listen close when the wind moves through that town, they say you can still hear it, the hush that fell as the sun bled down and a woman found her footing on the edge of ruin. And perhaps it will mean something to you, traveler of stories, that dignity is not given by the crowd nor stolen by their scorn. It is found in the quiet moment when you lift your head, take another's hand, and decide that your worth will not be bargained, only chosen. Beneath every burning sky, we are all given that choice. And it is the choosing, not the whispers, that writes the legend of our lives.